Dakle, kao što ste vidjeli prema agendi, današnji predavač je Mihajlo Jovović i Mihajlo je iskusan glavni odgovorni urednik sa dosta iskustva rade u štampi i u novinama. Dakle, on je veoma vešti u copywritingu i u istraživačkom novinarstvu i u storytellingu i u pisanju vesti, generalno novinarstvu kao takom. Trenutno radi na vijestima koji su dnevni list u Crnoj Gori kao glavni odgovorni urednik i na toj poziciji radi od 2011. do 2018. Takođe kao i programski direktor istog tog medija od 2018. kao što rekao gde je trenutno i zaposlen. Po obrazovanju je završio prava, je pravnik na Univerzitetu u Crnoj Gori. Takođe, tako da eto, imat ćete isto čas da imate jednog predavača koji ima kombinovana, samo da ubacim, izvinite, manju u sobu, koji kombinuje različita znanja iz i prava i novinarstva, tako da ono što je posebno meni zanimljivo kod predavača, ovo kao što sam rekao, jeste naziv teme, tako da verovatno ćemo očekivati nešto zanimljivo iz celog tog okvira Where is my text, this is not my text. Tako da, izvolite Mihajlo i tu smo mi za šta treba. Eto.
Hvala Uroše, dobar dan svima ponovo. Samo jedna ispravka, ja više nisam glavni odgovorni urednik od 2018. nego sam programski direktor. Bavim se, čitavo ovo vrijeme ja sam prvo moje zanimanje je novinar, pa onda sve ostalo urednik ovoga, onoga. Tako da bih to htio da istaknem da sam prije svega novinar. Skoro čitav svoj novinarski vijek sam proveo u vijestima koji su jedan od najuticajnijih, ako ne i najuticajniji mediji u Crnoj Gori, koji je privatni medij koji se finansira iz onoga što zaradi. Posljednje vrijeme je prilično teško medijima koji se trude da budu nezavisni u svojoj uređivačkoj politici. Ima dosta problema, ali nadam se da ćemo izgurati i ostati ono što jesmo. Sad bih želio da mi se učesnici predstave, drage kolege, mlade i malo ne toliko mlada. Ne vidim još tu četvrtu osobu koja je ušla u sobu. Dobro, nema veze. Sara, dobar dan.
Dobar dan, kako ste?
Evo.
Ja sam studentkinja političkih nauka, završna godina, to jest na specijalističkim studijama sam, ako Bog da ću diplomirati. Pored toga pripravnica sam u Institutu za medije i radim honorarno za prvi crnogorski portal PCNN, prve crnogorske nezavisne elektronske novine. I tu pišem povremeno zato što nemam kad. Osim toga, aktivistkinja sam za sva ljudska ugrožena prava, pogotovo u Crnoj Gori, tako na lokalnom, tako na nacionalnom i globalnom nivou, rekla bih. Tako da, zadovoljstvo mi da vas slušam danas.
Kako ide to aktivizam i novinarstvo? Da li to može jedno s drugim?
Pa teško, s obzirom na to da još nisam diplomirana novinarka i teme na kojima se bavim, trudim se da više, mislim, ja kad pišem za medij s kojim imam ugovor, odvajam teme, znači trudim se da budem maksimalno neutralna i, na primjer, za ženska prava i tako dalje. Ako sam na događaju, neću pisati o tome, ali mislim da imam potpunu slobodu da izvještavam o malo većim temama, dok na primjer, kad sam imala šta da kažem za studentske proteste koji su se održali prošle godine, imala sam medijski prostor u vijestima da napišem kako je sve to počelo, s obzirom na mnoge glasine da smo politički obojeni i tako dalje. Tako da pokušavam u više formi koje su prihvatljive za ono čime se bavim, s obzirom da nemam konkretno da se bavim kulturom, da se bavim ne znam nija čim, jer mislim da novinarstvo ne mora striktno da se graniči. Ja sam novinarka te rubrike, na primjer, za sad, za svoj neki početak, ali vidjet ćemo kuda će ići.
Dobro. Marija?
Eto, dobar dan, drago mi je što ću vas slušati danas. Moje ime je Marija, trenutno za magazin Karica Sarajeva, to je magazin u online formi, ranije se štampao, sada više. Također sam i autor svoje male emisije koja se zove Kafica sa Marijom i sad igram slučaj, tu niko ne pije kaficu uvijek ili gin tonic ili ne piju ništa ili se nešto ne znam. Morat ću da uvedem kaficu u tu priču. U svakom slučaju nisam diplomirani novinar, imam jako malo godina za tako nešto, tako da ove godine sam završila srednju školu, upisujem žurnalistiku. Međutim, zašto sam ja tu? Zato što, pa ne znam ni ja kako sam došla do novinarstva, uglavnom imala sam sigurno nešto zanimljivo da doprinesem tome i radim intervjue i u suštini nekako moj neki cilj je da čitaocu držim pažnju ili gledaocu i to mi je nekako najvažnije.
Izvinjam se samo što upadam, izvini Marija, pošto sada Dioniza dolazi, pa eto, mogli bismo preći na in English. Eto, samo to da obavestim.
I see her. Hi, Dioniza. Is it Doniza or Dioniza? I can't hear you.
Doniza.
Doniza. Okay. Thank you, Maria. I can see here Manja. Can you tell us something about you?
I'll be short. So I have a diploma in comparative literature and literature theory. I have no experience in journalism, but academically I'm concerned with narrative theories, or in other words, a more popular term is storytelling. So now I'm studying for my master's degree, and I am investigating in how storytelling functions in media, journalism, and so on. So this workshop is another exercise in, understanding how it all functions, like in a more practical sense, not theoretically. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Donisa, can you tell us more about yourself, please?
Yes.
Tell me, because you probably did this at the beginning of every
Yes.
workshop. So
I have studied Bachelor in Communication Science and the Master in Public Relations. I have worked 1 year and a half in a media and public relation office in Bedo University in Albania, and I have worked also as an online journalist for 6 months in 2 newspapers. Also, I have been part of a lot of projects in school and after school.
Okay. Mirjana?
I have finished the Faculty of Political Science, Journalism, and master degrees in environmental politics. I'm working as a journalist 12 years. Past 6 years, I work in a web portal in Pančevo, and now I'm working in Pančevac, the local press, like editor of culture and writing about social topics also. And I'm also owner of my own web portal about environment, ecology. And yesterday I mentioned that I work 3 years for like a correspondent for some Russian magazine. about economy, politics. So I was mixed a lot in my career, but now I'm mostly about ecology and about people and culture.
Thank you. Una, hi.
Hi, my name is Una. I work as, what happened?
Everything is fine.
Me?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, yeah. So I work as a journalist for Deutsche Welle. I'm correspondent from Belgrade. I have been working for them for several years. And before that, I worked for the agency Beta. In this moment, I participate in one project of Balkan Insights concerning transitional justice. And in general, I try to cover, to focus myself on transitional justice. So I cover judgments in Belgrade for war crimes. And that's it. What I did until now.
Okay, so we covered everything. So we have students, if I'm right, only one of you have never worked in journalism. So, but Manja, that's Manja, yeah. This my lecture. I don't want to call it lecture. I prefer to call it exchange of thoughts and knowledge and everything else. But I think it will be also interesting for Manja. First of all, I would like to ask you, what do you think? What is the integrity in journalism, and why is that important? Whoever wants to tell me something about it.
Well, I think that integrity is when you, as a journalist, always speak the truth, and even in when something sensational is coming from you, it's important that it's always true. And today I was doing an interview this morning, and it's sensational, but it's definitely like totally true, with no fake yes, with no fireworks, without the real, I don't know, sparkles, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
I'd say integrity of a journalist. From the integrity of a journalist comes integrity of the media house, right? So I would say that to have an integrity as a journalist, you have to be credible. Your sources, you as a person, because if you're not a good person, I don't think you can be a good reporter or any kind of social justice fighter. So I would say we as journalists should keep the basic moral values, and also like to stick to codes of ethics, both in self-regulatory space and international, global, whatever, and of course our national code of ethics.
Oh, we have from Mirjana. This is nice. To not do anything. Can you tell us more about it, Mirjana, please?
I'm at work, so I'm changing places.
Right. Go on.
It is usually in media now, you're asked to do or write something that is not. It's not journalism. It's going beyond the journalism, and it goes to politics or any other things that interests, and just to stay in that position. For me, the end of the point where I would say, no, I'm going from journalism, is to be asked to do something I don't want to write or tell. So my integrity is to stay in that standards, to be objective, to spread the information of public interest for people that are useful, and just to be a real journalist.
Thank you. Here we have Una. I don't think I gave you the chance to say more about yourself. So sorry. Can you do that first and then tell me what's the integrity?
More about myself. Well, everything I said about my professional experience until now, that's it. I do not have anything to
add.
To add, yes. But integrity in journalism for me is capable of thinking, having your own opinion, but in the same time, you have to respect basic rules of our profession. So you have to find the balance between those two things, I think.
Okay. Donisa?
I think it is to do the right thing, even if you ask to do the wrong thing. I think today is for journalists is very hard to be always in the right side, because as we know, corruption and other things are around us. But integrity, I think that help us to be in the right way and do always what we think is right for the society and for us.
Okay, I like very much what you said. That's basically it, and I don't have much to add. But I would like to point out that the most important thing from integrity of a journalist or the media, the most important product of that is trust. And trust in the newsroom, which is very rare today, or at least in some small number of media, as we all know. And then I think that trust is transferred to the audience, and that's how the media should function in a democratic society. I'm going to give you a few examples of things which are probably very very frequent in today's journalists' life in the region. So I give you first example. A journalist writes an article, a very good one in her opinion, files it to the editor, and goes home very happy. However, I'm going to talk mostly about newspaper articles, because I have experience that I never had an experience in television, and also on the publishing articles on news portal and how it goes. So journalist writes an article, goes home, gives it to the editor, goes home. However, in the morning, journalist is shocked. His article or her article was edited, so it is almost unrecognizable. Some paragraphs were deleted or changed. Some names of people and or companies are taken out. Something that was not his or her information and was not verified by this journalist was added in. Maybe headline tells the readers what is not the essence of the article, but in the byline is still his or her name. I would like to hear, has this ever happened to you? Or have you heard about it from a colleague journalist, your editor, maybe, when he or she was up-and-coming journalist. Could you please tell us about it? And of course, what you did if you experienced that, or your colleague did, or your editor, or the person who told you that.
Can I? Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, I wrote several articles for Vreme, and the editor I sent my articles didn't change anything 2 or 3 times, and I'm sorry. Once he changed something, but he emailed me and he asked me if if it is okay with me. So I really felt very well in that kind of working with them. But after that, editor changed, and I sent an article thinking that the same thing will happen. So either nothing will be changed, either she will ask if I agree. And she published the article really without some paragraphs that I wrote, and she added some things that it is not, I didn't write really. So I didn't like it at all. My name was still, I was the author of that article in the end, but I didn't feel like that. And I felt, I didn't feel well, really. I think that if you add something that you have to ask the author, and she didn't do it. So it was very bad experience for me, for example.
What did you do?
Nothing. I just, I couldn't. I didn't write to her. I thought that I will protest. That I would protest, but I didn't do it. I didn't do that. But they didn't send any article more.
So you stopped writing for them by your or by their decision?
No, by my, because that space is still open for me. If I write an article that they like, if they don't like, of course they can always refuse. But I think that, they never told me that but I didn't feel well, and I stopped. Yes, I stopped writing. Maybe it will change. Maybe I will find a reason to reconnect the editor. It is culture, so you can have some idea. Yes, it is.
That was an article about culture.
Yes, it is very important. Everything I wrote for them was culture.
Right. I'm surprised. What was wrong with the culture article?
I don't know. I think that editors sometimes change things and your article is really better, and sometimes that they don't even know that they did something that and made your article work. I think that it happens, and that it is very frustrating. Something that you can have, you can feel very bad. Decisions like that.
Yeah. Okay. Who wants to talk to us next? Lola? I don't see everybody here. I have to move. Lola?
Okay. I just wanted to add, about what Una was saying, that, the problem is of the culture policy of this country. It doesn't exist. The culture is still being perceived as a leisure time, and only being used during political campaigns, let's say, or as some addition to it. So even the working culture are not being perceived as culture workers. People don't think that people working in culture, they think that they are just like hobbies or something like that. So the whole relation and towards the culture in our society is on really, really low branches. So I'm not really surprised, when anything, that is connected with culture is being really low on the ladder of importance. And of course, the truth is absolutely different. It's very, very much more than I don't know, to play or whatever. That's my team, and I will keep it for my thing. Sorry.
Thank you, but obviously, in this case, the culture was important because something was not liked by the editor there, so it must be important. Okay, Sarah, go on.
So my first experience in journalism was when I was on the second year, I think, of journalism on Faculty of Political Science, and our internship was in the printed media Dnevne novine. So my CV was empty. You know, I wanted some, papers. So I decided we could have chosen, like, we had the opportunity to choose what kind of journalism we wanted. So I decided culture because I knew who I was working with, right? So
you thought it's safe there.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought I was like an experienced little reporter. So I went there. I was like, I want that and that. And the girl that is also from my city that year, she had a reward as one of the best journalists in Montenegro. It's Sonja Ičović.
Right.
So she was kind of like my mentor, and she immediately texted me if I wanted to go to the promotion of a book called E baš vam hvala. So I went there, and she told me like how many characters I needed to write, blah, blah, blah. I had like on 2 big pages. It's like, it's very great. You know, I was very proud of myself. But and also I asked if they needed a camera or something because I had one with myself. So that was a big plus for me, right? And I went there, wrote an article the very next day, and the headline, I put a headline like promotion of a book of Marko E baš vam hvala, like a basic headline. And it stayed there, but there was a subheadline, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Red bourgeois something. I didn't want to be like, I didn't read the book. I just heard him talk. You know, I cannot write about, like, I cannot make an accent on something that I didn't read. Maybe he wasn't putting it in that context, you know, so I was trying to. But it came out in the newspaper, but as internships are here, you probably know, it lasted like 15 days. That was the only day, I mean 2 days. I came to apply, and the very next day to write and give them the article. So that was it. I didn't show up anymore. I am proud of what I wrote because it's a very big media space, and I have it in my portfolio, but I'm not proud of who I've written it for, you know, like that was, no matter how minor that sounds, you know, when you read it, but if you're media literate, politically literate, I think that was very a low hit for me, you know.
Was anything changed in the article, or just that
I honestly, I didn't check because I wrote it in their office, and like I was, it's a good article, you know. But
I believe you.
I don't think anything changed because who is gonna read that much, you know? It's basically quotes and
right.
You know,
that was a report from a press conference.
Right? Yeah, it's a report. I don't have anything to frame about the book. I didn't read the book. I wanted to buy the book. I didn't have any money, but never mind. It was a great promotion of the book, and I hope there is somewhere a video. But anyhow, I wasn't expecting anything else from them.
Okay. Yeah?
Just when Sarah finishes, I can see that Uroš has something to add. So
Yeah, I was going to do that when she finishes.
Okay, great.
Sarah, what did you do about it? Okay, you were intern.
I just didn't show up, and I like 15 days after or a few months after, I don't even know, we got the certificates. Like, we didn't even get the individual certificates that we did the internship. We have a paper and like 10 of us
on the list, right?
They've completed, and I'm like, okay. It's very disgraceful, I'd say, and disrespectful, but whatever.
Right.
Uroš? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Uroš is waiting for a long time, unless he went for a coffee or something.
No, I'm here. I'm listening the whole time, and I see from all of your experiences and from Lola's general comment how the things are, and I agree mostly, but I would just like to give a little bit of optimism here when it comes to talking about the culture and writing about culture. I was volunteering back in 2015, so for over a year, to 2016, in an organization called Bulevar Umetnosti, and we were mostly just writing and disseminating PR materials and proclamations and all the information from many cultural institutions. And yes, there is the audience, which is really a good thing that when we talk about writing, we all now focus on the editors, on the policies of the media houses or the policies of cultural institutions. However, there is an audience, and sometimes I think we should be creative, we should be stimulated to like a little bit even revolutionary, just to fight against all the system as it is and to write about culture on our own. We can start a blog, we can do whatever we want, but in my opinion, many people are still lazy. Audience exists.
We need the contamination, so.
Yeah, also, but it is really, really complex question. I mean, when it comes to cultural policy, we have on one side the state and the state actors who are, as we all know, how they are and who are they giving money to. And on the other hand, we had some cultural institutions that have a good reputation in many Balkan countries. However, most of them are not even having any strategic initiatives, are really working dull, are really working by the constant schemes, really working about the constant forms. So it's really, really the complex question when it comes to culture. So it's not all about the editor itself and about the writing, but it's also about the audience that might exist and the cultural policy that is really, really complex because all the actors are playing by their rules. So that is why I just wanted to give like the general picture to all of that and to encourage all of you who are writing in culture to continue doing that. Nevertheless, the people who are against it, nevertheless, the people who are not interested, trust me, you would animate many people if you want to write about that, only if you have a will and the patience for it.
And if you have an editor who will allow you to do that.
Or you can start a vlog on your own.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was going to talk about it, but you said it now.
Lola made a good conclusion to my statement on the chat. So
right.
By giving us the opinions of the uneducated journalism keeps us in touch with the ignorance of community, which is...
That's nice, yeah. Thank you, Lola. Una, did you want to say something, or I was...
No, just to say to Sarah, because we have the very same experience. In this case, editor didn't change anything in my article, but I did really the same thing about that novel Marko Vitojković baš from Hvala. I wrote an article about press conference. So same thing.
Right.
Yes.
Like, I don't even know how old are you, but it was a low kick for me as a 19, 20-year-old.
Are you going to apply for a job in Dnevne novine?
Sure.
Okay. Who's left? Donisa? can you tell us if you had any experience like this?
Yes, I have had when I was working in a website news, and I was writing an article about a politician in Albania, and then when I write the article and I publish in the website, then my editor saw the article and she hated that politician, and then she said, "You have talking too soft about it. You have to say more bad things." And then she take the article and write another paragraph saying what she wanted to say about him, not related to the to the event of the politician, but what she was thinking about that that politician. And I was very young at the time, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't say nothing to her about changing my article. But this is, I think, how it works when you are very young.
Well, unfortunately, yeah. Is anybody? Hey, hi, Mirjana. Go on.
I want to say, because I'm writing about culture 5 years and I'm editor 3 years in the culture, that in local newspaper, the culture is the safest part of journalism. Because, oh, just a second.
Should we say what kind of newspaper or no? Are they local?
Go on.
I'm gonna skip.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later.
I'm here because I have in a whole bunch of people. So do you hear me now?
Yeah, go on.
Yes. I wanted to say that I never had a problems with the culture rubric, never. And because when it's something is sensitive, you choose the way how you will talk about that topic also. But when I wrote about in some other rubric like economy, and I had a situation that my article was cut when something is sensitive. So that is different. And I felt like I waste my time, that is the feeling when you do something and you do with a passion and somebody just cut something that is important for citizens. So, usually I have a problem with headlines, and I always fight for them, for my headlines, and I always return my headlines. So that is my experience.
So you could be an editor.
Yes, I'm partly so.
All right. Okay. Who's left? Maria?
Well, yes, we all had some experiences like that, but I didn't write many articles. But my editor once, I wrote some funny article, and he wanted me to change it into, I don't know, a live lecture. And sometimes I just burn like matches, and I was like, he didn't get my article, he didn't get the point, and I was like angry, and I didn't even change it. I just left it like I didn't want to change it as he wanted me to. I just said like nope. So that's it.
That's one of ways dealing with that. But what did you say to him? What was the?
Of course, I explained in a nice way. Actually, there were some happenings, so I left the newspaper, but I returned later on.
Right.
Because we are good now, but some things were like going on, and I was like, I don't want to work there anymore.
So you left.
And I came back.
Okay, you're like one I think that was in the 60s when famous talk host, I think it was Tonight Show or something like that. He quit when he was censored by the editors. One of his joke was was censored, and he left publicly. He said there must be a better living than this. Must be a better way to learn the living than like this. But after a month, he returned, and explanations be, oh, I said that, but I looked, and there was no better way. So that was his.
That's so me. I'm pretty fast, but then, you think later.
Right. Maya, obviously you haven't had, or you maybe had some experience in writing anything. No.
But since I've been called out like this, then I have to say something, I guess. No, I haven't published anything yet, although I do have a couple of essays, not articles, but that I plan to publish, and I think they are a bit edgy, I think, concerning some topics that are current. And
Who are they?
So the subject, the topics of the articles.
Ah, right.
The topics are a bit, I don't know, opinionated, I guess. So I do have that fear of, not being welcomed when I do in fact publish these articles, because it is not a mainstream opinion. So I think that your experiences in this are something to keep in mind. And I'm now thinking about, because I have friends who publish their essays in literature and so on and so on. So they have their networks, which do publish, your whole text intact. But they do not have the audience, that they do not have a greater impact. So, like, should I go to them and, ask them to publish my text knowing that nobody will read them? Or should I, go to someone that has a greater outreach, but, I would have to deal with some confrontation and so on. So that is another dilemma.
So what's the better way?
Oh, well, I'm not sure at the moment. Maybe it is better to, be published where your text will stay the same, but then work on, the marketing of the article or something like that, if you want more people to read it.
Right. So
or you can, go to different sites and so on, and then publish the different versions of the same text, and then reference the whole text as like the whole document.
Like give the link for the document somewhere, right?
Something like that.
Okay, so I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to tell you one of my experiences. As a young journalist, I was invited by an older colleague, more experienced, to do an interview with a prominent Montenegrin politician to practice or to see how he's doing. And I said, I will go with you if I can ask questions. He said, no problem, go for it. We went there. He asked some questions. I put 2 questions, which I thought were tricky and uncomfortable to answer for this guy. Now I really forgot what these questions were about. However, my questions and his answers to my questions were never published in the article. They were deleted from the article, which we wrote together. But both of us were in the byline, or both our signatures are there. I was furious, because I was looking forward to seeing my signature below the interview with such an important guy, me as a young journalist. When I asked my colleague why, he said that this guy asked him to delete it. I said, why? Why do you think he did that? Can anybody guess?
Because they were good questions.
But are they?
They were exposing him. They were exposing him in some way. He did not want the public, to have an opinion on. He did not want to be seen in that light.
No, I'm asking why my older colleague deleted his questions, not the guy who asked what's obvious. I'm asking why my colleague deleted these two my questions.
They were probably good friends or something. Because he gave
Maybe
freedom to, yeah, sure, ask anything. Right, we'll delete it later.
Okay.
I think it's corruption.
Okay.
That's friends to me. So.
Or maybe it is a competition between you two.
No, I was very young. I was not important at the time.
Maybe he thought you'd become more important after,
Okay, that's one possibility. Any other thoughts?
Can I say something?
Yep.
I think most of the journalists, all journalists, are very friendly with the politicians because sometimes they do favor to each others. And as I have seen where I have worked, because of those favors, they try not to say, I don't know, bad things about the politicians. And then they attack the politician who is against that politician they are, I don't know, they are friendly with.
Okay.
Can I ask just something?
Yep.
What kind of questions were they?
I definitely forgot what about it, but I thought at the time they were very unpleasant for this guy.
So that is the answer.
Well,
maybe he was afraid that it will have some negative repercussions. That you two will be persecuted for publishing.
No, it was not. It was not. Well, later, I was very mad at the time, but later I realized that my questions were not that important, and his explanation was, "This guy is my source." Some of you said the journalist was a friend with this politician. That was not true. This guy was my friend, my colleague, and later my friend's source. And it's for debate how it works. But this guy was giving my friend information that he couldn't get in any other way. And his explanation was that two questions which will make look this guy bad, but not so important for the public interest, would antagonize my source, and I wouldn't have the information I have. He also wrote some, later I realized, he wrote some very good stories, big affairs that came out from this source. So it's always dilemma what to do in these situations. So it's not all black and white. You have bad guys and good guys. But it's exactly the question of integrity, which we are talking about in this week, which should that question and what you feel is integrity should decide in this moral, ethical, professional dilemma. So, what do you think? Is it? Would you do something like that or not?
do something like
delete 2 questions from a younger colleague in order not to lose your source, your good source.
Were you depends. Were you on the internship? Was that your first day?
No, I was working there for a year, something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. But I would, as a colleague, I would tell you before I published it, because we're colleagues,
Yeah, maybe not without consulting you first. But
that's right.
I didn't mean
consulting.
I didn't mean consulting you. I would say, listen, I'm going to delete this because of that and that. If you're going to get mad, get mad.
Yeah, but the question is, this guy couldn't tell me at the time that he was his source, because the journalist should always keep his sources to himself.
The source in journalism is very important. More important than the questions, then I think it's okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Denise. Something interfered with the network, the sound. I didn't hear you quite well.
Oh, you didn't hear me. You hear me now?
Yeah, I hear.
Okay, I was saying that if the information he was taking from the politician was more important than the questions, then I think his behavior was okay, because sometimes you have to choose what is best for the newspaper. And I think that if the article he wrote after that was very important, then I think it was okay, his behavior.
Well, in my opinion, he did the right thing, because the stories he wrote afterwards, based on the information and documents and other things that this source gave him, was more important. Not for the newspaper, also for the newspaper, but for the public interest, which is the main thing that journalists with integrity should guide themselves. Anybody else?
Yeah, but what if? So the actions he took later on justified what he did to the article at first, but what if that didn't happen?
Well, then I would probably have some of the explanations you gave. That corruption, it's friendship, it's something else other than the journalistic integrity.
That is what I wanted to say, that what he did is practical, because journalists without source can't have a story, and journalist without story is not a journalist. But it is also true that the fact that he deleted some serious questions and important questions undermines integrity of journalism.
It does, but I was not very experienced journalist at the time. Mm-hmm. I thought I was in some way, I thought that my questions are the best in the world. So I realized later that I was wrong. So
but in case,
I understand.
You can imagine if it was the central question. And
of course. If it was the major answer, or which is the news, or which is there was some. I think it was some petty political inside story about which I heard, and I wanted to I mean, this guy was surprised with the question, but it was not much important. Okay, we have another example. Similar as this, journalist writes an article, files it to the editor, very good one, journalist thinks, as I thought that my questions were, goes home happy. However, in the morning there was no article in the newspaper or on the website. You ask the editor why, he or she does not answer your messages or returning your calls or emails, or says some other article was more important at the moment. There was no space or something like that. You wait for another day, it's the same. Your article is still unpublished. Then another day and another day. Finally, you get the call from editor, and they say it was decided upstairs that your article is not going to run. There is no explanation, or they give you some fishy explanations. Has this ever happened to you? Have you heard about it from a colleague journalist, editor, or from anywhere else in your country or any other country? So just be quick, because we are running out of time. This is not going as I planned.
As I said before, I had experience to write something about in the field of economy, and it was not good because.
Was that for your Russian magazine?
No. That was for my local press, because it was not with the interest of this company. So it was just cut off, and there are some other articles instead of that. So I was just angry because I wasted time. And the article was good and really important for this situation, because the old workers from the big factories from Pančevo were having some troubles, issues, and wanted to solve that. And it was just not good for the paper. So what could you do?
Right. You don't see anybody else? Okay. So, how many of you heard for the case of Boris Dežulović? Do you know who Boris Dežulović is? Sorry, cannot see you. Boris Dežulović, the columnist of many newspapers in former countries of former Yugoslavia. And his case happened 2 years ago in Oslobođenje newspaper, Sarajevo. Has anybody heard about it? Okay.
I heard about Boris Dežulović, but I don't know about what happened with the.
Well, I tell you, I mean, me as many other people who I consider journalists, real journalists, and people who think about things, waited for his column in Oslobođenje, but 1 week it was not there. So everybody wondered what happened, and it was not for me, because I don't live in Sarajevo and I don't know him, so I couldn't ask him why. But the following week there was a column in Oslobođenje. I will share a link with you. It's in one of our 4 languages, but I don't know, Donisa couldn't understand it, but she can Google translate it. Basically, he wrote a column about the situation in Sarajevo when head of the SDA, the one of the ruling parties in Bosnia, said in a public event that Erdogan, the Turkish president and a dictator, that some people think, was sent from God to do what he does.
Was that now recently?
No, 2 years ago. In
well,
2018.
Right now we have the similar situation where he read the Quran and analyzed it, I guess. I don't know. I didn't watch, but my colleague from Belgrade, a freelancer, asked me about how to say a prayer or whatever.
All right. So he explained in that column that he was he didn't the people in Oslobođenje were in his own way. He's a very good writer, and his columns start with somebody calling him at 2. All of his columns start with somebody calling him at 2 o'clock in the morning and telling a joke, and through that, and the satire, very witty and very funny. And he explained that that night, that guy who called him allegedly 2 o'clock in the morning to tell him a joke didn't call, and instead of this guy, head of this party, called Oslobođenje, and he told the joke. So this is the case I want to analyze in two ways. The newspaper, Oslobođenje, is a very famous newspaper, although a bit declining lately. They published the columns when he joked about, but also in a very serious way, talked about other leaders of Bosnia who are, I don't know, Christians, who are Catholics or Orthodox, and they didn't complain. But this was their explanation. The Oslobođenje never gave any explanation for that. So this is the very public way that people who read Oslobođenje and who read his column lost trust in this paper, at least some of them. I'm sure some of them approved it because religious feeling of my religion should not be insulted. I mean, the question is what you do if something like that happens to you, or something from our previous example. It's very important for you to know how to deal with this situation. Generally, you will have already known by this time, when these situations come up, which media you're working for, what kind of media you're working for. Is it a media which works hard to fulfill its role in a democratic society, that is to be a watchdog of democracy, speak truth to power without fear or favor, and give voice to the voiceless? Or you are working for so-called media that are mouthpiece of the government or the opposition, or some business interest, some foreign powers even, or particular interest of its owners, whether they are political, financial, or all of these together. So I presume people in this situation behave in line with this profile of the media they work for. If you work for propaganda mouthpieces, which I consider the media that Sarah had troubles with, this Dnevne novine in Montenegro. So if you're working for such media, you might have expected this kind of situation to happen. I will not go into reason why you had accepted to work for such an outlet at the first place.
I just wanted my first piece, it didn't matter to me because it was our first opportunity to have an internship anywhere, But after my generation, there's a new program. They have internships multiple times a year. So, and
right.
This kind of late, second year, nothing.
Well, but you were not contacted. You were not consulted. That's the most important thing in building trust between editor and journalist. I think there is no integrity or authorship in these media. And everybody in the profession know what it is and who these media are. Unfortunately, there are very few media left who are not like that. One option to leave is to, if you work in such media, is to leave immediately after something like this happened and still save your journalist soul, because you experience directly what you could have figured out just from reading, watching the stuff in such media before you started working there. Second option is to stay. In the most honest words of one of the veteran politicians in Montenegro, explaining why he is still in the ruling party that changed several ideologies just to stay in power for 30 years. He said, and this guy did some really dirty stuff for his party, whether as an MP or a minister, whatever office he held at one time or another. When asked once privately, why do you do this? He said, pardon my language, but this is a quote and you shouldn't change the quotes unless it's absolutely necessary, but I think it's not. And he said, the first shit is the hardest to eat. Afterwards, it's much easier. So your choice is made if you stay there after your article is amended or dropped completely. And in my opinion, you will last forever as a journalist. If you're working for a media with integrity and kind of newsroom democracy based on established rules, hopefully written, and in most of these media, they have written rules, but also unwritten rules. If such thing happened, you should tread carefully. As I said in my first example, the line is not set straight, but it's not black and white. First, I think you should first go through your original story, your notes, documents, recorded interviews, and other evidence that you based your story on, and check carefully if you can find a mistake or violation of the rules that you missed when you read it last time just before you file it. Read again the rules of editing and communication, which is most important thing to build trust between editor and journalist. Internal ethical code or code of journalists in your country, if there is one, especially sections that deal with writing the kind of story you filed and it was changed or dropped. These are rules about general reporting, political reporting, reporting on advertisers, reporting on the owners of the media, stories that feature your publishing company or media outlet. So these are the stories which people get in trouble or think they get in trouble when writing about this. So if you should not find a mistake in the original story, if you think that you did not break any rules, go and ask your immediate editor for explanation, politely, calmly, preferably in an email, so you have a paper trail of communication. If such a situation happens for the first time in your newsroom that you know of, give your editor benefit of the doubt and give them a chance to explain themselves. Firstly, ask why you have not been contacted if your story needed changing. It could have been misunderstanding, so it's not black and white. It could have been misunderstanding, tight deadline, some other story was not finished and your story had to be put in at the last moment. Story had to be cut because there was not enough space in the newsroom and maybe some other justified reasons. Or the editor was just not careful enough, was tired after editing 6 articles that day, for example, or 10, and did not pay enough attention and made mistakes. Also, to make it try to explain to you that it's not black and white. Often it's a question of style. I mean, editor is the guy who decides which headlines go into published article. You can agree with that or not, but you have to have the argument why you think you're not. An editor, of course, has to have the reasons why he think that your headline was not very good. Some journalists like their writing style so much and think it's the best in the world, and they complain when editors change the style of things in the article because they think it's in the wrong. We have a journalist in the newsroom who works for 17, 18 years, and he always writes he's following the courts, and his raw articles, when the editor gets them, starts with yesterday the court trial of so and so continued in a high court in Podgorica, full stop, which is not really, and he thought that, and he still thinks that's the best way to do it. Even if he can tomorrow read the story and see, and maybe say, oh, this is better. Should I try to do this? But no. He even, sometimes he even entered the system and changed back what editor did. And so his articles had to be checked. But he's a very good journalist. I mean, if you can say that for somebody, he knows everything which is happening in the court, and editors are very pleased to have him, even if they have to write his articles from scratch. There is another mistake that the editor makes. Some editors like their own writing style and literally write their journalist articles from scratch. So the result of that is that every article they edit look the same or have the same structure, which is also not good. So he gets in trouble with the journalists sometimes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go on, jump in, everybody.
In your opinion, is it better to have information or to have a style? What
of course.
If you could choose only one thing?
Oh, information, definitely.
Okay.
Style can be learned. Also, gathering information can be learned. But the most important thing with journalists is the ability first of all, curiosity.
Yeah, because, I guess anyone can help you with your style, but with information, you have to get them by yourself.
Yeah, I just said the extreme case, which is just to illustrate the point. To go back to what you should do, if you're satisfied, if you're not satisfied with your editorial explanation, you should write an email to the editor-in-chief or his or her deputy editor, explaining the situation in detail and why you think you have been wronged and in what way your integrity and authorship were violated. If you are stonewalled, meaning you did not get an answer or the answer is bullshit, something fishy is definitely going on, and you should realize your beloved newsroom is not doing what it preaches. Especially pay attention to articles about advertisers, about politicians, certain politicians, which you think that your editor or your owner or other people, maybe even just likes, you know. These things, in my experience, happen very rarely in these newsrooms. I don't know how it is in other newsrooms, but in VST it happened very, very, very rarely. And I'm going to talk about it. Oof, it's 10 to 2. Sorry about that. So if you're satisfied with the editor-in-chief's answer, when you say, which says that either you or your editor make mistakes and that mistakes are corrected publicly, published on the web or in newspaper in the next issue, you are at the right place. Or if you accept that you made a mistake, that's fine. If you're not, you should do the same as those people who work in the Dnevne novine and think about your next steps. Whether you fight for yourself in that newsroom and for that newsroom, because your integrity contributes to the integrity.
I think they only fight for themselves individually. No.
Well, maybe somewhere, but it's not always the case. So people make mistakes all the time. Can you tell me? Actually, I'm going to tell you about a recent case which happened in our newsroom. There was, Sarah maybe knows, during the Corona crisis, the government decided to publish the list of people who are in self-isolation with their on the government website with their telephone numbers and personal identification numbers. Actually, the government decided to publish all the names and addresses of the people. Sorry, forget about this. The government decided to publish all the names and addresses of people who had to go into isolation, saying basically that their neighbors should watch if they break that rules in order to protect the community. That was, in my opinion, a very bad decision. Because it encouraged people to spy on each other, even if it's public health in question. But also the story on that, very critical, with the professionally done, was published in VST, and the sentence about this, there was a sentence inside. They were all what happened, when it happened, all the things were professionally done. Statements from people who think it's right, statements from people who think it's not right. And there was a sentence, the list with names, addresses, and personal identification number and telephone numbers appeared on the social media. That was in the original article. They just reported on the story as it happened, as the journalists saw it. But on the web version, which was published tomorrow morning, I don't know, I think about 10 or 11 o'clock, there was an extra sentence which says, the list first appeared on the government website, but it was soon removed.
It leaked, basically.
Yeah, I'm not talking about it. Definitely leaked. It could only come from the government.
Exists.
Yeah, but my point is that this sentence, which appeared in the article the journalist wrote, didn't appear in the printed edition. What happened? The journalist's signature was there, and the sentence says the list with the data which is forbidden to be published, to be seen by others by law is forbidden. The sentence is the list first appeared on the government website, but it was soon removed. Of course, the person who put this in the article was one of the editors, without asking the journalist. He was convinced that it was like that because he said he saw it. He didn't contact the journalist to ask him to do that. But the most important thing is he didn't have any proof that it would happen. He didn't make a print screen or have any other evidence. Of course, the government was furious. To be honest, I still don't know if it was right or not, or the government was playing hard on journalists, especially on VST, because they don't like us much. The government said, published on Twitter, it was fake news. They never published that. What could we do? We took back the article, apologized. The editor took the responsibility for that publicly. So, in my opinion, this is the way that the mistakes should be admitted as soon as they're noticed. And you should apologize to the people concerned and also to your readers. I'm just going to say, I prepared a lot of stuff here, but we're running out of time. And I just wanted to say something about integrity in the newsroom and integrity of journalism. I think the key person in obtaining and maintaining the integrity of the newsroom and the journalist is the editor-in-chief. I think the newsroom integrity starts with the editor-in-chief, because he or she is the keeper of integrity of every journalist in the newsroom. Editor-in-chief is the bridge or the wall between publishers or the business department, advertising department of the newspaper on one side, sometimes bridge and sometimes the wall. And so that's on one side, and editors and journalists on the other side, depending on the situation. If you're editor-in-chief, and you will notice that soon when you start working for a media, whatever media you're working for, if your editor-in-chief is keen to please the owners of the media or its marketing department, it will soon be no integrity left. Good journalists and editors will leave. I'm talking about media who are trying to do their role in the democratic society. So good journalists and editors will leave. The journalism is weakened. Self-censorship and apathy will set in. And soon there will be more bad or meaningless stories in the newspaper or on the web, and much less good stories that fulfill the mission of this media, that readers like, and what is the reason the readers buy the newspaper or come to your website. And yes, when the trust is lost in the newsroom, and trust is the most important element of integrity of the newsroom, the readers will lose the trust in the newspaper, and you will soon become one of the many other media.
It's an example.
Okay, I'll give you the chance if you have any questions. I hope we can.
It's an example, since we've had, like, in first 2 months this year, we've had like 3 arrests of journalists. I've personally written some analysis on it. So private, of course. So
Oh, do you mean
When
private?
it comes to I'm working for an NGO. It's not a media house.
All right.
It was
Was it published?
No.
Oh.
It's in our private archive.
So
Anyway,
you're spying then?
no.
You're foreign mercenary.
Forensically gather information and put them in one sheet. Anyways, when it comes to FOSS media, and Angela Đekanović, she had one source when it comes to a story. Doesn't matter. When we talked about FOSS media, I don't know if they have an editor-in-chief, because when I wasn't there, but like my colleagues asked some journalists from FOSS media, and they said in our newsroom back then, before that, I don't know about now, before the arrest, they said they do not have an editor-in-chief in a way that is before all of them, but they're all like individuals and doing their own thing and posted on. I don't even know how many journalists work for FOSS. Maybe now there's an obvious impressum. I didn't check, but I did notice they do report. They were reporting, at least last year, very professionally, I'd say. But hierarchy and the newsroom, I'm not sure how it works for them, and if that kind of organization internal is good for a media house.
You're asking me? It's not, in my opinion, it's not good. Well, it's how can I say? It's like an army, but not.
It's like anarchy in.
The newsroom should have a hierarchy, and everybody should know what's their job, but also what are their rights, not only their obligation but their rights. We still have the internal ethical code, which says journalist has a right to say, I don't want to have my signature under this article because this is not my article.
Can we get self-regulatory code of VST on email or something? Because I'm deeply interested how it looks like.
I'll check. I'll check and I'll send it to you. If it's allowed to go out.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking.
I think I can get it. So what I wanted to say, if you're a journalist, you should take care of your integrity, and not if you want to do journalism. If you want to stay journalist all your life, or at least for the time being, you should never let people run over you or your integrity. And these things should. We have a saying in Montenegro. I don't know the translation, but it basically says "Ne daj nase." People who understand. Sorry, Donisa, I don't know how to translate it. Don't let others. It loses in translation.
You.
Well, it's like
not physically.
Like two frogs and grandmother translation. But anyway, is there anything you want to ask me before we finish? Because I think we can we, Uroš, Lola, can we continue for 5 minutes if they have some questions? Lola wants to say something.
I'm giving it 2 minutes because we have elections.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. If you have questions, do it now, and if you remember something afterwards, Lola has my email, so you can, and I think all of you has my email, so you can email me on, or Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you were great, Mihajlo. Thank you so much. It was really inspiring, and you just took the right form of it. I love it. So now we are making a pause for the next lecture, Saluti from Pristina. You guys, have your little pause now. We are just leaving Sarah Sarah, you wanted to say something. I'm giving you 5
whoever wants to say.
I'm giving you 5 minutes, but everybody else can leave and have a.
Can I just thank everybody and thank you for doing this lecture. You did this, not me. And thanks Lola for the fine advice. And if you have any questions, just not only about this workshop or anything else in the future, if you need advice or whatever, help, or even help with some people they're not from Montenegro, or even you, Sarah, if you do a story or something like that, or you cannot publish what you do anywhere else, just let me know.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, Mihajlo.
I didn't hear you.
You can be chosen as a mentor as well.
Okay, I'll do that gladly. No problem. Bye-bye all. I'm going now.
Bye. Just press leave. Yeah.
Okay, so my idea for the project, I'm gonna be very short. I kind of wrote a song. So I do have people that are musical producers. Even my uncle is a musician. So all I need, but it's gonna last for like 3 minutes. It's gonna be a video included. It's not gonna be a lyric video. I'm gonna put more like snippets of different situations, like those inspiring songs that are, and it's gonna be about young reporters asking for their audience to understand what we're trying to do. So basically, I'm not gonna sing it for you, but I want to see the keywords. It's like about young people being sons and daughters of the whole world, not just of their own parents, and about generations, about my generation, but not only my generation, because ageism is on a very low level, I'd say, right now. And we're just struggling to make our audience see that it's not how the media puts it all the time, and that what I want from the media, what kind of news, what kind of,
Okay. So the thing is that at the end of the last lecture, now we'll talk, tell them what are the next steps. Among them is actually all of you, one pager proposing what is your idea. So you have a week or so to actually put the paper, and we'll send it in a paper form. And we'll know all the deadlines and the steps. So right now, keep your idea in your mind, develop it, and then we'll put it on paper and send it to us.
Okay, but when it comes to a mentor, it's really hard to choose, because
I know.
yeah. So can you be my mentor, maybe, or the lecturers only?
Oh, only the lecture so far.
Yeah, because I don't know who's into this kind of genre.
Yeah, we will see. When you send your one page, we will decide.
Okay, something like a sheet. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
You still have very online. See if in founder of Kosovo 2.0, they're really regionally, and later on from BIR, told you the BIR board, national reward for the all these their qualities and possibilities. And the angle from which you are going to formulate your proposal, you will have. Okay, hey guys,
Sure.
now go
Thank-
drink coffee and see you at 3. Bye bye.
Have a nice time. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.